Regional School Committee to order. And we have sort of virtual, we take roll call vote. Jennifer?
Here.
Sarah?
Here.
Irv?
Present.
William?
Here.
Bridget?
Here.
Did I, myself, Sarah Bess is here. Did I miss anyone? I saw Anna for a hot second, but maybe she's...
Deb's trying to get in too.
Okay.
Anna is trying as well.
Oh.
While we're waiting, why don't I call the Amherst School Committee to order at 6:35. Jennifer is here. Bridget?
Here.
Sarah?
Here.
Irv?
Here.
That is quorum.
And I'll call the Pelham School Committee meeting to order at 6:36. Sarah Bess?
Present.
William?
Here.
And Margaret here. Jenny Bradbury will join us when she can.
Okay, so you said both Anna and Deb said they were trying to log in. I'm not seeing them as asking to be.
Yeah, Anna just said she's having technical issues.
Oh, okay. Not me then. All right. Do we want to give them? Oh, good. Deb's here. Excellent.
Deb, can you say hi to make sure we can hear you and you can hear us?
So Sarah Bess, can you stop her from sharing her screen?
Deb, can you hear us?
How would one do that?
Oh, she stopped.
Yep. Okay. Excellent. Phew, because I don't know how to do that. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Deb.
Hi, Deb. Excellent. Thank you.
I can't hear you, but that's my sound is off. I have to figure out how to turn it on.
We can hear you.
Oh, hear you, Deb.
Yep, here we are.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello.
Hi.
and Tim.
Oh, and Tim. Great. Okay. So we're good to go. Everybody's called to order. We have everyone. Perfect. Okay. I did not receive any public comment. Our first order of business is vote to approve the Director of Finance contract. Dr. Z.
Good evening, everyone. As appointed by the school committees, I was able to enter into negotiation with Shannon Bernaccia. I say it well all the time, and today I stumble on it, to negotiate her contract. Some of the key things that I want to point out that is a bit different in her contract, and then open up the floor for questions around, and I'm going to go in as deep as I can. One of the key things that we discussed was, and it's specific to her, is a telework option. And I want to go straight to that point. As everyone knows, when I came in, Shannon was remote, but however, being remote does not stop for the efficiency and amount of work that she puts forth. So we did put a telework option in place, one that allows, and just so you're aware, the district is developing a telework procedure. We did have it reviewed by Mark. It is a procedure because it deals with personnel. It is not a policy. So I want to put that in place. It's a procedure and a guideline. And so we did have Mark review it, and we did get some feedback. And so we are working that in. However, to move forward with Shannon's contract, some of the key things was um, being able to provide feedback as a superintendent and allowing it that if at any point there's any concerns around her performance, we would have a discussion and then it would have a decision. The decision would allow for the superintendent to provide the employee in writing 60 days ahead of it and then allow the employee, which is Shannon, an additional 60 days to fully transition to in-person work. So we wanted to put that in place as well. So that's in there. I know that there's been conversation around the executive director structure. However, I just want to be clear that upon review, any new positions or any new titles have to be approved by school committees. And so we can't put that into her contract as of right now because of the fact that the job descriptions have not been approved by the school committees. So we would amend at a later date. Or add an amendment to it, depending on how we finance or how things go and what the conversation is. Everything else stayed very similar to the previous contract, except for the vacation days. And this vacation day maximum will only be extended to individuals within the central office. We're increasing it to 60. What I've learned since being in is that a lot of directors have especially central office directors, lose vacation days because of the type of work they have. For example, finance, many times, like, or even myself, operations, which would be Mike Gallo, even though we have a rollover and a maximum, we're often losing days because even though we go on vacation, we are called in from vacation, or if something has to happen, we end up coming in. So we don't get to use our vacation days as much. So increasing the maximum for individuals within the central office to 60 days, and central office being higher director level individuals who have those. And I've been looking at the numbers, and then the opportunity for her to buy back unused up to 7 days because they again lose those days. So buy back unused vacation days up to 7 days. The person who has the max buyback in the district is the superintendent. And so looking at that as well. So those are the major critical changes that we worked out together in terms of what's happening in her contract. So I'll open the floor for any questions.
Jennifer?
So, Dr. Z, where it says about in the telework section, it says section number 14, any decision to alter or terminate the arrangement. Oh no, before that, the employee's telework arrangement shall not be revoked or modified solely at the unilateral discretion of the supervisor or employer. I mean, you are the supervisor, right?
Right.
So this makes it sound like it's not your decision, but it is your decision, right? You just have to base your decision on these things, on documented reasonable operational needs and substantiated performance related concerns. Like that's what you would base it on, but it's still your decision, right?
Correct. But it's not, and then again too, it's not just solely it's okay. So because this is a position that is appointed, and maybe we can reword it. This is a position that is appointed it's selected by me, but appointed by the committees. It would have to be a joint decision. But also we wanted to word it in a way where there was an opportunity for a discussion. And that in the essence of the next line says, it talks about documented and reasonable operational needs or substantiated professional concerns, is making sure that along the way there's actually that discussion going on, like, hey, I'm seeing a slip in your efficiency, I'm seeing concerns around this, but I get what you're saying and we can work on that. It is my decision, but we wanted to put it in a way that it wasn't just a, hey, tomorrow we want you in the office. It was you're slipping in terms of performance and I'm seeing these things and there's a discussion. So we're trying to make it more of a discussion, again, going to the collaborative effort of the community and not just making unilateral decisions. Is how do we engage each other in that discussion? But it would be my decision. It would be my and the committee's decisions. It wouldn't just be my decision.
Good, great. And I appreciate the notice, 60 days and then another 60 days, but I wouldn't want to put anything in the contract that would take away your decision-making
Okay.
ability. And so that's just my input. And
Okay.
while I have the floor, if anyone has Doug's old contract, I'm trying to find it, but just for comparison, if anyone has it and wants to share it with the committee, that would be great. By email or something. Thank you.
I can
Sarah?
get that sent through HR to the committee.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sarah?
Thank you. I have to say I'm very uncomfortable being asked to approve a contract that we've only just seen, and this committee had no seat at the table during negotiations. I mean, we have a seat at the table for collective bargaining with all our unions, and of course with the superintendent. And I have lots of questions and concerns. No concern about Shannon, but many concerns about the contract. And I wish we had an executive session where we could go through a lot of this, because I don't feel it's uncomfortable for me to be doing this in public.
So,
So
not to cut you off,
mean,
Sarah,
this
I
is
have a
really
question.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
I have a question. It is my knowledge that I was informed that in past practice, the committee did not negotiate with the employee, the superintendent negotiated, and then the contract was presented. So if that is a change of practice, or if someone knows something different, then let me know. But I was told, like in previous, once appointed, the contract is then negotiated directly with the employee through the superintendent, like, and that's how it was done previously.
I have no idea because I wasn't on the committee whenever that contract was negotiated. But even if even if the superintendent negotiates maybe directly with with Shannon, I think it would still be appropriate to then confer with the committees in executive session about what you're working out, because I mean that's just where I'm at with this, because contracts are serious and bind us and our school committee policy, and yeah, I'm not ready to vote on it.
Okay, so my question is, sorry.
Go ahead,
Maybe
Doug.
I'm the only one who feels that way. We'll see, but that's yeah.
So my question is, what would you suggest to be the next steps? Because I was just following what was past practice. If something was a misstep, please let me know. Like I've consistently tried my best to explain. Like I'm trying to go through what I'm able to learn and to decipher. So if something is a misstep, I just need the committee to let me know, and then we have a time frame so that we can make sure that everything is in place for the upcoming budget. So, I mean, at the end of the day, her contract is public. So I just want to make sure that if there's changes or concerns, if we have to go into executive session, then through the chairs, I would just ask that this be done a bit differently. But again, so I turn it back over to the chairs.
Bridget?
Yeah, I guess that I had questions about just some small language pieces. One of them is in the remote section where it says all of the director of finance may elect to perform all or part of their duties via telework. And I think all of their duties, I'm a little confused about that, because there are some elements of the job that I'm familiar with that I do know are necessary to perform in person. I just think of the Four Towns meetings, for example. And then the other question I had is there's that additional role of the executive director, and it would be probably necessary for some, like, not to have all of that be remote as well, because that's supervising, a team of some sort. So I just have questions about the sort of absolutist language in all, in the word all there. And
So,
that's it.
oh, okay. So prior to that, it says subject to prior written approval of the superintendent. So right before that, there's a comma. That entire thing says subject to prior written approval of the superintendent. The director of finance may elect to perform all or part of their duties. Then in the so even the four towns, like we had a discussion. Shannon was present for every four towns meeting as she was acting. Like she didn't miss a four towns meeting. She like if she had to be present to even when we did the appointment, she was present. She's in the office and she meets she keeps a very tight calendar. I am aware of her in-person days and her in-person meetings. Whenever we have to have an in-person, or I can call her and say, Shannon, I need you in person for the next 2 days. She makes arrangements and she's in person. So right, that's why it says subject to prior written approval of the superintendent. And so I can see, again, I'm making note to language changes. So I will definitely write that down as a area of concern.
Deb?
I thought the school committee had the right to was responsible for approving certain positions, the finance director and the assistant superintendent, but that it was very limited in terms of the things that was under our purview. And I don't believe there was any indication there was contract negotiation. It was just we approve or disapprove it, and we can't withhold approval for sort of unreasonable, anything unreasonable or random. Does that ring any bells?
So when I went on to MASC, and I know there's been a lot of conversation back and forth, so I don't mind checking and confirming with legal counsel. I know in speaking with legal counsel, it was basically they're an appointee of the school committee, right? And so for me, the contract has to be finally approved, reviewed, and approved by the school committee. That's why we're back here with the contract. I did negotiations with Shannon in terms of the terms. But again, as you see, everything in here talks about the school committees, and there are a series of positions. Deb, you are correct. There's the nurse manager, there's the treasurer, there are a series of positions that are appointed through the school committee, the SSO director. However, those contracts were also negotiated with the superintendent and the employee. I have been trying to follow processes that may not have been followed before, and this may be causing some confusion. So like I said, I am open to reviewing. I am just trying to keep everything in my word that I'm being accused of using too much, transparent. So I can get that clarified. But yes, Deb, you do appoint these positions, and then usually I think contracts were negotiated in-house, and then I am now putting an additional step up, because all throughout this contract says the superintendent and the committees, wanting to make sure the committees are aware of what is in this contract.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Deb. Irv?
I think you've already answered this question, Dr. Z. And my experience in the past was that the contract was brought forward by the superintendent. And then any other further negotiations were then done at the request of the school committee.
Okay. Thank you, Irv.
Thank you, Irv. William?
I was just going to say, I do think that we are supposed to approve the contract, and I do think that we do have the ability to be part of the negotiation team if we so chose to. But I don't think there was any. I don't think there was any missteps in what's occurred, but I think we could have been involved in those negotiations if the committee had sought to do that.
Thank you.
That was all I was going to take. The other question is, on this contract, it is a contract between the region and Union 26, and Union 26 is not in order right now. And I don't think Union 26 and the region are actually over her employment. I think it's all three districts. So I would just want to clarify
correct.
on that and make
I'll
sure that
correct it.
we correct that, because I don't think it's Union 26, to be honest.
It's not. Union 26 only hires the superintendent. That's an error on our part. I think that was on the previous. Like I said, this is based off of that one, so we will correct it. We'll update it and correct it and make that correction. So I'll correct the committees because it is all 3 committees that should be there. Thank you for that.
Jennifer? Thank you, William.
So I found the previous director of finance's contract. I emailed it to all of you. And you're right, it does say the regional school committee and Union 26, which I agree is not exactly right.
Correct.
But also it's signed by only the superintendent and the person and director of finance. So, but just because that's how it was done doesn't necessarily mean it was right. So maybe we check with Mark just to confirm who's supposed to sign the contract, and are the school committees supposed to be involved in the negotiations? I have a question though about Shannon's position, because I think we're all clear that the director of finance position is within the purview of the school committees, but Shannon is more than just that. She's also the executive director of one of the 4 areas. But that job and that work is not under our purview. That's directly only the superintendent's purview. But and so when we talk about telework, or whatever we're calling it here, I was going to say something about the person who's in charge of facilities, or the person for whom the facilities director reports to is someone who's remote, maybe is a little bit less than ideal, but that's not the position we're talking about here, and that's not the position we're approving. But I would imagine that the compensation for this position and in this contract does reflect that Shannon's job is bigger than just director of finance. So it's a little bit squishy. I mean, and maybe no, it's not squishy. So it's just the contract that we're going to approve, and the work that we're approving, and the position that we're approving is only the director of finance, not the other stuff. And
You haven't approved the job descriptions. You haven't approved the job descriptions. I haven't presented any of that to you. It's still a pilot. I'm working it out in that's how I've consistently moved it. Like, this is a pilot to see how this works. And
yeah,
so
but
I
see.
Yeah, so this is Shannon's work as the director of finance.
Gotcha.
And the work that she has been doing and is doing as the director of finance. This has nothing to do with the ED structure, because that hasn't been approved by the committees.
Okay, and so the compensation in the contract that we're looking at reflects only the director of finance role.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah? Thank you, Jennifer.
I'll go ahead and mention some of my concerns, and just some, like in paragraph 5, just so as long as you're gonna be cleaning up or maybe changing a few other things, the word he and his is used a couple times. I gather this was a contract with a Wayland employee, and it's been modified, because that's the name of the file when you open it up. So I'm so paragraph 6 at the end does refer to the executive director position, and I understand that hasn't been approved yet, but I note that it mentions a separate pensionable stipend. So I just want to say that when we get to that, if we do get to the executive director model, I mean, because that impacts the budget, obviously, that amount must be approved by school committee. It does say negotiated between the superintendent and the director of finance upon the committee's approval, but it doesn't say that the amount of the stipend needs to be approved by the school committees. And I think it should be, because it affects the budget. Also in paragraph 7, in the 3rd line says that I'll just shorthand, Shannon and Dr. Z can agree to terms for fringe benefits different from or in addition to the benefits mentioned. Again, that could have financial impact and set some precedents. So I would think those would need to be approved
But that,
by the committees, not just by those two parties and appended to this document. I'm also very puzzled by the life insurance policy, why we would require an employee to maintain a life insurance policy. This paragraph doesn't mention who is the beneficiary. Is this because we want the school districts to be the beneficiary? Why would we require an employee to take out an insurance policy that benefits her family, for example? It doesn't make any sense. It also doesn't mention the amount of the policy, like what value would, I mean, I think life insurance policy, the premium has been offered as a benefit in some contracts, but I don't recall that it's been obligatory, and I don't see what the benefit to the district is for that. Paragraph 11, this is about termination and discipline. It says if the superintendent and the committees may discipline Shannon for good cause. And I just wonder why it says may include, but is not limited to reprimand, warning, and or suspension. I don't know why it doesn't also specify termination, right? Because that's kind of the ultimate, and and termination is mentioned in the heading for this section. What else? Oh, as for the telework, I think 4 months from, I just think that's too long. I appreciate the challenge that can make for someone to change the schedule to be more in the office, but for 4 months, for it to take 4 months to actually put into effect seems way more than necessary to me. So
can I go into
yeah, yeah.
can I ask that you email some of those concerns so that we could look it over and I can go over each one?
Okay.
So in terms of paragraph 5, we were running, sorry, it's paragraph 5. We were trying to walk, so 2 things. When I asked what was needed to discuss the contract, they said I was told that a actual draft of the contract was needed for the school committee to review. So we did take, and in about, because I think we've been trying to get everything done by June 15th so that we could meet the salary notices. We did take the previous contract and go in and just started making edits around the areas that were the biggest concerns to both Shannon and I in our discussions. Please note that in the past couple of weeks, I've also been doing contract negotiations with every director or person that has asked or principal that has put forth to renegotiate their contract. So Shannon is one of about 7 to 8 people that I've met with around contract negotiations. And we actually, I'm very honest, we took the previous contract and we edited certain areas to make sure that the school committee had this, so that, because there's only one contract that I need the school committee outside of mine that I need the school committee to approve by June 15th or before June 15th. And this is Shannon's. So this again is why it's being brought forth outside of what's been done before. So in 5, we were talking about some language and the fact of when I would get the ED structure in, not 5, sorry, 6. So the he and his in 5, that's my bad. I will definitely make those edits. In 6, we were talking as a team around what that would look like in terms of the ED structure, because the individuals that have done that this year have not asked for any additional compensation. They have not. However, it was, as the work continues, what would that look like? And if it is approved, I don't see it being a whole complete other salary, because some of it is additional duties, especially when I am not around. And so that's the discussion that we had around a stipend. We put in draft language in there. I thought we removed it before we sent it, but we didn't. So that's my bad. So I understand the conversation and the fact that whether or not it should be in her contract before it is sent, because of the fact that once the job descriptions come forth, and they're approved, we don't know what's going to come back from the committees. but we were back and forth on what should be in there. So I am more than willing to remove that language from there. In terms of 7, I believe that was in the previous finance director's contract. And again, that's language that we didn't focus in on and zoom in on. I don't have it in front of me. I have the one for Shannon in front of me. I'll have to go in and pull it. But I believe that was continued language, and that wasn't some of the things that we kind of dove into and discussed. I'm sure and willing, more than sure, that Shannon is willing to forego that. Um, that wasn't an area that we wanted to focus in on in terms of how her work in the district. The key things that we wanted to focus in on was around how she would work for the district and what that would look on. And that you can see that we took a lot of time in discussing the telework option, what that's going to look like, how that comes forward. I want to clarify, and maybe we need to clarify further on the language, that it takes 60 days to say this day you have to, 60 days to tell her by this day you need to start being in person, and then 60 days for her to fully be in person. One of the things that we talked about was the fact that she would have to uproot her entire family and move and be here. She is willing to do that with adequate time. So we discussed back and forth, and in negotiation discussed what that would look like in terms of increasing days and putting those things in place. If we need to clarify further for the committee, I'm not opposed to that. But I don't want it to seem like, oh, it's gonna be like a 4 months out. It actually, we discussed this, we talked about when is notification for you, and then you need to fully be here by this time. So I just wanted to expand on that to say that it's not like, oh, you have 4 months to get here. No, it's this day is actually a transition plan. Hey, this day you need to start increasing, and you have this day to be fully here. So that's what it is. And I hope that clarifies those questions. And if there are any others, I'm more than willing to go back over it.
I also mentioned the life insurance. Do you have any
No,
comments?
I did. I commented on that one. That was, you brought that forward under 7, and I said in reference to 7, that's a carryover, and I'm
Yes.
sure she's more than willing, because that wasn't what we focused in on. We focused in on specific aspects that I wanted to make sure were clear. And so one of the things was clear was how we were going to work and what that work was going to look like. So we're okay with getting rid of it if we need to remove it. That is a carryover from the previous director's contract.
Thank you, Sarah and Dr. Z. Jennifer?
So I wanted to address Sarah's concerns about the termination and discipline section first. Number 10 is about termination, and number 11 is about discipline. So that's why
Correct.
I assume that's why 11 doesn't mention termination, because termination is addressed in number 10. Regarding the life insurance, I also see that it was in the previous finance director's contract. I also would like that removed. I believe that is a holdover. I'm just going to say it. I believe that is a holdover from a time when there was a district employee who was attempting to personally benefit by selling life insurance to other district employees. I've seen it in a couple of other contracts, and I think it should be removed from this contract and any future contracts. And then regarding the compensation, so number 6, I just wanted to ask if you could add a $ to that 137.7, because as my eye was going through the contract, I was looking for $ and there just doesn't happen to be one there in number 6, and so I almost missed it. I value Shannon, and I do want to pay her what she's worth, and pay her an amount that reflects the job and the size of the job and the importance of the job. That being said, the previous finance director's base salary was 109, and that was 109,000, and that was in this contract year 22-23. So if we just start with just adding 3% to that every year for 4 years, that brings us up to 123. And so I'm just noting that the 137 seems high. Again, maybe there are other factors like, inflation's been higher, and maybe this is the market rate for this position, but I think I would want some um, reasoning behind that number. Thank you.
Sure. 2 things. I believe the last salary was in the 130s. I'm going to get the correct number. And this is actually less than Northampton and other surrounding districts that are much larger than our district for the amount of work that she does. She manages 3 budgets. the grants as well as the district and the various, sorry, I'm not giving a thumbs up. Sorry, Google, put your thumb down. But I'm gonna get the correct last number that was there. And so she's actually, in terms of MASBO and what other finance business officers are actually making in terms of comparable district sizes, she is making less than them. So I understand the concern, but I did look at the numbers and I can share some of those numbers with you. If it's a concern of the committee, we can definitely look at it again, but that is, I did look. So I did look at the districts around us and closest to us, and the amount of work in terms of the 3 budgets, and everything else that we have to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anna?
Yeah, so I think this has sort of come up with a couple of other people, but I would say that I do not feel comfortable with language in the contract that says will be negotiated later. I
No,
want,
I'm removing that language. I
okay,
just said that.
all of
Mhm.
that needs to be hard numbers. And I don't, do we have the hard numbers and I just missed it, or
No, for the
okay.
EDs, no. So
No,
what I said, oh,
the fringe benefits to be negotiated can be changed and negotiated with the superintendent later. Yes, the also the EDs, but there's a couple of different places where the number's not there and it says that this can be subject to change and will be negotiated, but they have financial implications to them, and I would like there to be no financial implications left to be negotiated after we approve the contract. And the second thing is, where did you, how did you pick 60 accruable vacation days?
so for example, right now, and I'll tell you, I got some numbers. Um, Let me pull it up. Give me 1 second. I have, I'm going to tell you right now, in terms of central office directors, I have about 4 individuals. So every year they roll over. So you have a max of, they have a max of 44, but every year they accrue, and some accrue 27, some accrue 25, and some accrue 22, depending on how long they've been in the district. Um, every year, some individuals have a max of 44, right? This year, in terms of central office director level, we have about 3 to 4 directors that are going to lose about 17 plus vacation days because they have been unable to take those vacation days. So looking at, I have one individual who has about, I'm going to say 68 days. I have another individual, I'm trying to find the email because I have these numbers. And so there are individuals who have exceeded this. And so to me, 60 was a good minimum cutoff number, that allowed for anyone, even if they had 22 each year, they would still lose vacation days, but still have a little more of a max to gain back their vacation days in terms of, or to use their vacation days. They've been losing them repeatedly for year over year over year, because they've been staying and doing the work of the district. So I'm trying to allow for individuals to find out work-life balance and not consistently lose vacation days. But I need to pull up the emails so that I can tell you how many individuals.
So I'm not in favor of increasing the number of days that employees can accrue. Part of the reason that we don't want that to happen is because we do want that work-life balance. And the other reason is we do not want to increase our financial liability for when people leave. And when people leave and then we have to pay them out for 60 days, it's a huge liability for the district as those numbers pile up and pile up and pile up. And so you've got that, you've got sick days, we've got all of these different things that we have to pay out at the end of the contract. And by increasing those numbers, we put this huge amount of encumbrances on our district, and we really need to limit the amount that we're doing. And I understand that, you know, employees should be compensated for their work here, but really we need to have them have that balance and take their vacation time. Maybe the summer is the best time for them to take their vacation, but then they should be really encouraged to take a 2 or 3 week long vacation so they can use that vacation when it's most convenient for the district to have that employee absent. But the 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 idea that we just need to increase the number so they don't lose as many every year is it's only it's a very acute solution, right? Because you do that now, and so then they roll over more this year, but then they're in the exact same boat that they are in next year and the following year and the following year. So I think that the solution has to be encouraging them to take vacation and making it possible for them to take vacation rather than building up more vacation time that gets paid out.
So I'm gonna say two things. One, that's very hard when it comes to running a district, and I don't disagree with telling anyone about work-life balance. I also know that that finance can't shut down in the summer. That's end of year reporting. That's transition over to a new budget. And no matter how much they would love to take summertime off, it's very hard for them. It's very hard for them as finance individuals to take time off in the winter time or Christmas time. It's very hard for operations and maintenance directors to take time off. Yesterday, our director was ill and there was an outage, and we had to he ended up getting calls, I'm getting calls, and we're all trying to get things together. It's not that individuals don't want to take their vacation time. Let me make that very clear. They actually do want to take their vacation time. The essence and breadth of the job often impedes the opportunity for them to take their vacation time. And so I get it. But they're also
But
leaders, they're managers and I can tell individuals take their vacation time and be unreachable and get stuff completed. I just want everyone to also understand that it impacts the function of the district. So I was trying
so
to create a package that puts those things in place, but I'm willing to go back and have those discussions and reduce
so
the number.
I think the better solution would then be to offer them fewer vacation days and increase their salary. Because the building up of these vacation days is what's a problem for the district. And paying them out every, you know, instead of paying them out at the end of the year or the end of their tenure, just add it to their salary and give them fewer vacation days if they're really not going to use them.
So are you are are you saying that take away their vacation days and add it
And
to
give
their
them a bigger
salary,
salary.
or
Yeah.
increase the year, or increase the yearly payout of vacation days, the amount of days that they can get paid back every year?
I I think that you should just reduce the number of I mean, if it's really a problem, I mean, maybe you just offer which one they would. From a financial accountability standpoint, from an ability to know what you're paying and the ability to keep those costs consistent, fewer vacation days and a higher salary is more convenient for accounting purposes. I understand the idea of wanting to have those vacation days just in case you want to take a big vacation or whatever. But if people are really not using those vacation days, then the better solution is to lower the number of vacation days and increase the salary.
I don't think that they're not because of lack of want to. I
I'm
think
just
they're
saying,
no,
if
I
they can't
understand.
take the vacation, why are we giving it to them? If they can't
Because
take it,
but this is the district that encourages work-life balance. We just need to find. So what I'm thinking is, I hear you, and I think there's possible solutions to this that I'm willing to work out with the employees, which is who I would engage with. But what I don't want to do is ever take away the opportunity for them to take it. So on the front end, maybe I encourage them to take their vacations. On the back end, instead of adding it to their salary, we probably turn around and say, we pay out a higher payout at the end of the year and the higher number of buybacks at the end of the year. Either way, it's a financial implication. Either we're raising salaries to on comparable costs that we probably can't afford in the front end because we're looking at COLA every year, we're looking at this every year, versus on the back end, paying them out on the end and saying you didn't use this leave days, we increase the number of buyback days, and then there's a rollover. Either way, it's a financial implication. And I'm gonna kindly ask Shannon to help me work those numbers to see what would be the better solution to this situation.
Thanks, Anna. Irv?
The question I have is, do we have a policy as regards remote working? Is that in place, or is it non-existent? And I
There's
mean,
no,
that's the first question. The second question is, this is a really senior position, and I guess I'm surprised that this request has come forward. And maybe because I thought Shannon was local. Obviously, there's a question about that. I don't know whether she's local or whatever. But that is something that surprised me. So I'm surprised that this came forward, and then obviously brought me to the thought: hey, do we have a remote worker policy? And if we do, for what level of workers are we talking about? Anyway, do we have one?
no, I started off by saying that I've developed a procedure and I've shared it with legal, and we've been working on that one to have it finalized.
But that's not a policy.
So there
We
is
do
no
not have a
policy.
policy around
There is no
remote work,
There's
there
no
is no
policy on remote work. So
not
the
to my
school
knowledge.
committee, so the school committee has no policy on remote work.
no.
You know,
But again,
I guess I'm
does that
reluctant.
fall under? However, does that fall under? And I don't know if this is the place for it, but I don't think in terms of personnel where that falls. But I will leave that to the chair. But I think it's in terms of personnel, that's a personnel matter. So, but I'll
If it's a personnel matter, who decides on those things that directly affect the functioning of the administration in the school committee in
I
terms of
do. Oh,
yeah,
in the
in
school
terms of
committee or the
our duty?
district.
Yeah, in the district. For instance, this Shannon's position affects a whole lot of the district. I mean, it is an incredibly important position. So, so that's and as far as I'm concerned, second only to you in terms of importance. So asking us to look at a remote worker in a position like this is without fair warning and also without us knowing what's, I guess I'm not saying you say it's personnel policy, but and this affects the entire district. This
I'm
affects
gonna
us.
I'm gonna say this. Shannon has been remote and working. I'm going to say hybrid, not even fully remote because she's not fully remote, hybrid. She's been in the office as well as we're working telework. And she has worked her tail off for all three districts. Whether it's 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning, whether a school committee member asks her to do a 6-page report or a town asks her to do a 6-page report. She has worked critically for this district and has not failed. Has not failed. And if we are looking at position and location over effectiveness and efficiency and the amount of passion, purpose, and I would say procedural fortitude that she has put forth, then I mean, I am the superintendent and I am here to say that I am pleased with the work that Shannon is doing. If I had a concern, and everybody should know this by now, if I had a concern with something that was being done, I would have brought it forth and I would not have hidden it. So I am going to say that I have not seen, I have been accused of being unresponsive and I have not seen where Shannon Bernaccia has not been responsive. I also know that I have not hidden her location from anyone, nor her access to her. And I want to say, I don't think anybody on this committee has not known where, probably Tim, he just reached. But other than Tim, I don't think anyone else has not known about Shannon. I met Shannon in this district in a role within the department, within the district. She was the assistant director of finance. So I met Shannon in this district working remotely. Shannon has stepped up. She has carried forward. She has done research. She has moved. Again, I say, please let me hear the one person I will say that Shannon has not been responsive. She's more responsive than I am at times. And who can say that she has not effectively done this work and moved this district into where, for the first time, I'm going to say in my email, for the first time in about 10 years, all 4 towns have said yes to our regional budget. She has moved where DESI is clear on things, where we are clear on coming into compliance and alignment. So I am going to say that I am 100%, I'm standing on my push for Shannon. And if there's things that we need to kind of discuss or to change within the contract, that is not something that I am not opposed to, because I know I'm not doing this on my own. But I will say that I will stand on Shannon Bernaccia being the director of finance.
No,
So her
Dr.
work
Z,
ethic is not an issue for me.
Dr. Z, I just want to make sure I'm clear. I am not questioning her ability, her commitment, her intelligence, her personnel performance. I'm not questioning any of that. All right, that is not a question to me. This person is someone who I value because of my interactions with her. I am just looking at it from another point of view, and that point of view is administrative, and it's an administrative function whereby that function is not present within the town of Amherst. Now, it may, despite that she might have been remote all these years, it's just an issue that I think needs to be explored. Whether we explore it tonight or not is not it's neither here nor there. But it is something that we, as a school committee, need to have a handle on, either policy wise or whatever. But we need it. This is something that, for me, other people may have known that Shannon was not within the town of Amherst. I didn't, so I'm surprised by it. But anyway,
I have a.
I think that is, we are off topic. We are talking about
Right.
Shannon's contract right now. Whether we want to have
Wait,
the discussion about remote work or not is a conversation for another day. Right now we have.
But if we don't have any policy on it whatsoever, that is a vacuum. That is a serious vacuum.
Then that is something for our policy subcommittee to take up. And we can request that they look into that, but that is not this conversation right now. Thank you, Irv. I have Deb.
Hi. Yeah, just a couple points. So, both for remote work and for carryover vacation days, I seem to recall some previous conversations about looking at the assistant principal the administrator contractor to at least see how the two things compare. And I understand that this is not the same position, but my concern, not that Shannon isn't dedicated and committed and fully capable of performing her work remotely, but there's other dedicated committed members of the school districts, and I think this is where Dr. Z was going, that also can perform some component of their work remotely, and to do it piecemeal is probably not a good idea. Understand we're voting her contract at this point, and I also understand that we don't have a policy at this point, but I don't want to back us into a situation where we can't make the same kind of accommodations for other committed administrators who also don't take vacation days during the school year or are limited in their abilities to because of the demands of their jobs.
So Deb, I want to say that not the the telework procedure, because everyone's saying the word policy, the telework procedure for staff will be shared with central office employees. And one of the things that we have to look at is one, some contracts clearly state that the employees within those contracts cannot be remote. So right now, this would go out really to individuals within the central office who, based on their job description, can perform their job duties or a portion of their job duties remotely. It will not go because we don't have, for example, teachers can't be remote because we don't have school remotely unless we transition to that. So the option is not just for Shannon. This language in Shannon's contract was developed off of the draft of the telework procedures that I had already was working with legal. So I want to make that very public and clear. This is not just for her. This is for anyone. There's times when individuals may have a family medical issue that they may not be them that are sick, but their family member is sick. And they have to transition to work. Like they're like, Dr. Z, I'm willing to work remote. Do you mind if I work remotely today? Yes, I do mind if you work remote. We've had individuals who, because of issues within the office, may have not been able to come into their office space and were granted the opportunity to work remotely because of issues within the office. We learned a lot from the pandemic, and one of the things is location doesn't tie often to efficiency, and everyone doesn't work in the same environment. This is why some major companies are transitioning back to in-person, and some major companies have shut down their physical offices and have remote offices. Like some individuals have opportunities for telework policies, and telework is all about efficiency. And that's why we also put in that contingency that if it doesn't work based on performance, there is a transition back to fully in person. That's one. Two, in terms of vacation days, the individuals who I am talking about in terms of these the opportunity to either Anna's suggestion was either buy back or increase their salary and stuff, would be individuals like the director of IS, the director of facilities and operations, the director of finance, probably the SSO director. We have our family and engagement person. We have our curriculum and instruction person. We have myself. Like these are all positions that are critical to the district running, who often try to take vacation days, and often on those vacation days may end up in a remote meeting. And so or end up, I myself have taken days, but I am out. I have been on sick leave, and I've still had to show up to a meeting. You understand? Like, and that is just the essence of the role that we committed to taking, so I understand, I hear the concerns, but I also know that we encourage them. They have families that I want them to go and spend time with. I want them to do what they need to do with. I want them to re-energize and recharge. And I want them to be able to come back and be 100% their best self. I also know that we are in a situation where rolling over things are lost. Shannon asked for that. I told her about that, the 60 days, because I felt like I was looking at how many people are losing days. I've been engaging with conversations around them. I was like, well, what is a way to kind of be fiscally responsible and not have us pay out all these things every year all the time, but still come with a workable. So it was increasing the maximum amount. That was my idea. I'm hearing other ideas today, but I just want to say like where that came from. So yes, Deb, that is why also I've been engaging with everyone in terms of contract negotiations. And it's not just, it came up with her. It did not come up with her. It came by the time I got to Shannon's, I had already spoken to about 6 people. And so I was like, oh, well, this seems to be something that is like a theme, like a recurring theme that has come up.
So follow up, and my request would be twofold: to reconsider that teachers can't work remotely, because I know that their prep time, they're expected to be in the school buildings. So that is a part of their job that they could do remotely. And then the second part would be to balance the demands of the job with the concerns of accumulating a lot and winding up with a chunk of money when you leave. Payout might be at the end of a year instead of
Okay.
rolling it over.
And then I think I'll have to find the language, but I think at some point the union may have voted against remote work. So I'll have to find that and see where in the CBAs that is. This would really be for high-level committee action employees and employees within the central office. Again, based on the job description and the job requirements of what they need to do. And I agree with balancing it and looking at that number. Like I said, this was something that came out of a recurring theme, but we can go back to the table and I will work with the finance team to see what on average that would possibly be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anna, final comments? Are you there, Anna?
Sorry. So I think I kind of forgot what I was thinking about, but I think, yeah, the insurance thing is a vestigial limb that needs to be cut off, and
I will
the
remove it,
yeah
Anna, from all contracts. I'll remove it.
yeah, it's something that just is an artifact and should be removed.
Okay.
I think the yeah, all of the things that say to be negotiated later should be firmed up and included in the next version, and that um, the telework, the whole section around telework is a little bit muddy and should be cleaned up a little bit. I think that there's some language in there about approvals that is really messy, about how you get approved, and then the superintendent or the direct supervisor can't be the only person who reapproves or does if you need to change something. So I think, we need to make it feasible for a supervisor and an employee to work out their working environment in a reasonable fashion, and that but we also need to make it transparent and not just arbitrary of like, well, you have the nice boss and they let you work remotely, and this person has a mean boss and they don't let you do that. So we need to be a little bit careful about that, but at the same time, I don't want to make it onerous to change a work from home plan. And then I do agree that people can do their job remotely, um, but not everybody can. And for those positions who can do their work remotely, we can just say this is a telework eligible position and this is not a telework eligible position. And for those who have a telework eligible position, this is how it's handled. But I think the subcommittee does need to create a policy on how that uh, is handled, or the policy can be the superintendent will create a procedure, and then the superintendent can create a procedure for that. But we do, I think, need to have something a little bit more firmed up. When I was reading that paragraph, it just seemed kind of messy and hard to get through. And so if it can just be cleaned up a little bit to make it a little bit more straightforward and not so wishy-washy and not so um, like, yeah, it just seemed like some of it was too hard and some of it was unclear in that portion. Um, I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Ms. Dancer.
So I have a question. Um, I would like to understand what's going to happen when you have a job description for the executive director position. Is that going to replace the job description and essentially what you're doing here? Or is Shannon going to have two job descriptions, two titles, and two parts to her salary? Or do they all blend together when you're done?
So what we ended up, and it was funny because that's why I said it was like draft language in Shannon's contract, because we ended up talking about the ED structure. And one of the things her and I discussed was let's say the next director of finance isn't willing to step in and support that role, and maybe you want to shift the ED to the person in operations, like like, or the like, because they're different divisions under each person, do we want to replace? So I was like, no, I don't want to replace the positions that are already established. That's why the conversation was around the stipend. It would be an additional support in terms of additional duties that are added on. And so that's the conversation right now. And so my plan is in our next joint meeting to have the descriptions and what it would look like to submit to the committees, because it would not replace that position. It actually would be like additional duties, and it would give the flexibility for, in case I wanted, not me, but let's say the next superintendent came in, and or I, in the next 3, 4, 5 years, may decide, okay, you know what, this may not be solely where the ED may not need to be just the director of curriculum and assessment. Maybe it needs to be the SSO person or whatever, like based on where we are, knowledge, structure, what we're doing. And so it gives the superintendent the flexibility to kind of assign that to someone who's already there in there. So it's not really going to replace the position. It's going to be like additional duties assigned to the positions. Long story short.
And it's going to increase the salary by whatever
So that's the
amount.
part I did not want to do, because like right now everyone's doing the work and they haven't really asked for anything. So we were talking about what that may look like. Not that even Shannon asked for anything. She didn't. It was like, it's additional duties. It's a lot of extra work. And so in conversations, one person did say, well, can I get a stipend for this additional work? Because it's a whole lot, like it's a whole 3 other divisions that I support when you're not there. And so I was like, oh, and then someone else in the conversation, I asked a question like, what would this look like? And so we've been wagering in the most effective and efficient way to do this that doesn't really root up the whole structure that's currently in place. So I actually have, like, I'm working on a presentation to bring to the committees before the end of June, so that for July, we could have like a clear understanding. And what I would do, because I think it'll help, is I'll send a draft of what I'm thinking to the committees within a week or two. So you could kind of see what it is that, and the descriptions and what it would look like.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Margaret. Sarah?
Yeah, I skipped over 2 questions I had about paragraph 3, duration. And maybe the answer is I just didn't notice them somewhere. Hopefully they're easy questions to answer. This talks about how to proceed if you, Dr. Z, the superintendent, wishes to renew the contract in the notice that is given. But what if you don't want to renew the contract? There's no reason, there's no cause to terminate the finance director early, but you just let the contract finish. What if you don't want to reappoint her? What kind of notice?
The second to last line states, if the superintendent intends to reappoint the director of finance at the end of this contract, she will make recommendation in writing to the school committees with simultaneous written notification to the director of finance before April 1st, 2028. So that allows me to say that I'm even not willing to renew.
No, it says if you intend to reappoint the director. It doesn't say if you don't wish to reappoint the director.
So you would like us to say,
well, communicate your decision regarding reappointing. So it could go either way. Either yes, I do want to, or no, I don't want to.
Okay.
Because I would think the finance director would also want to have some notice about that. And so that was the first question. The second is, what if the director of finance doesn't want to renew the contract? What kind of notice do we want about that?
It's in there. Where is it? Hold on.
Paragraph 12, I think.
I think so. I'm gonna. Yes, during the contract term, the director may voluntarily leave the employment with written notification of at least 3 months in advance of her due. So 90 days. It says
But
so.
that's during the contract. I mean, if she just decides, June 30th, that's going to be my last day. I don't want to stay for another 3 years.
You're talking about in her current because she has a current contract right now,
No, I'm just saying if she's not going to want to stay for a new contract.
Right. So you're talking about this contract or another? Because I'm lost.
Paragraph 12 says if you don't want to renew your contract, you have to give at least 3 months notice of your desired departure date.
No, that's
That's what you're asking,
fine,
right?
But no, because I interpret that is to mean during the period of the contract, if she wants
Right.
to.
But she's currently on a contract right now as
But I'm
well.
talking about what if we get towards.
So if it gets to be the end and there's 3 months left on her contract and she says, I would not like to renew my contract. 3 months before that, she says, I would not like to renew my contract and I'm out.
But I don't think this requires her to do that.
The director of finance serves the superintendent and the school committee with written notice at least 3 months in advance of her desired departure date.
But that's before the contract is expired. If she wants out, I'm talking
Yeah.
about if she doesn't
That's
want
what
it.
that is.
Right, but I'm saying, what if she doesn't want a new contract?
That is the
Then she
same
just
thing.
says no. It says that I have to notify her and the committees before April 1st simultaneously. So simultaneously, I would have to write the committees, I intend to renew. I have to write her, I intend to renew. She can respond back and say, because the committee has until April 15th to vote on it. And that's in 3. So the committee has until prior to April 1st. I need to write her and write the committees. I intend to renew Shannon's contract. Shannon has during that time to respond and say, I do not intend it. And during that notification, I would give her please respond by this date, because the school committee has until April 15th to vote on the recommendation to renew. I think that answers the question.
Well, I won't push it because there's only so much you can do. I mean, what if, we're proceeding and it gets to be June 2nd and she says, I'm not happy with the way this contract is going. I think I'm just going to leave. And then
she has to give us 90 days notice, and that notice can be, and that goes back to section 12. She has to give us 90 days notice, and at the option of the superintendent, I could reduce the 90-day notice if from the 90 days, but she has to give us 90 days notice. She has to say if she's voluntarily leaving the district, she has to give us 3 months notice from the date that she intends to leave.
Okay.
Okay, so I have Bridget and Anna, and then I think we need to move on. Bridget?
Yeah, so very first thing is I would say, next time we have something like this, if it can be put in executive session, it would be terrific, because it feels a little uncomfortable. I feel like I really want Shannon to know how valued she is to the committee, and yet the committee's doing all their due diligence on all these other things that don't make it socially necessarily feel that way, and I don't love that. And then there's just one piece, Dr. Z, when you're bringing back all the executive directors' positions and thinking about that, I think I'm having questions come up about budgetary structure, and I know we're not doing assistant superintendent, and this is supposed to be more economical, but if each of these positions is 130 something, and then there's a $20,000 stipend, or I'm just
No. It gonna come with a stipend amount, and it ain't gonna be no 20,000. It's not going to be that. Please. No. It will not be that.
Okay. The budget makes me anxious, so that's what I'm thinking.
No, I know trust me, it makes me very anxious. It will not be $20,000. We're working numbers to see what is affordable, what is realistic. and I'm going to put the range on there for each one. So I'm not even hiding that when I bring it forward. Like that's going to be brought forward for discussion. It's not going to be a $20,000 stipend. No, that's not happening.
All right, thank you.
We can't afford that.
Thanks, Bridget. Anna, final thoughts? Okay, if Anna comes back, she can have her final thoughts too. So I would just like to give mine very quickly. I think over the last year, I've done a lot of work with Shannon. I think she has been phenomenal at the job she has done. And I think 137 is perfectly fine and reasonable, and we are lucky to have her for that. I think neutralizing the language in there for gender is just good practice all the way around for all contracts. And I am really happy that Shannon wants to continue serving the districts in the role that she has. She has been a phenomenal asset. So what do we need to do next?
So I think that the committee has to vote, but they're not ready. I think that I have good feedback. I will go back and make the edits, and I will meet with Shannon, and then I need to get it back to the committee to vote. So I would need to know the next joint committee date. Like we said, we're trying to get all salary notices and everything by June 15th so that we could have the budgets and payroll could be ready to load up everything for July 1st. So if I'm guessing, I think we have something for the 10th when it comes around the artifacts. So I will definitely have this back up and ready for the 10th so that we could have it finalized and ready to sign. Also, in terms of next steps, I will reach out to legal counsel around some of the questions we have around telework, who should be signing, because again, I see what's past practice. Thank you, Jennifer, for finding the contract and sending it quickly. But I just wanted to make sure. I know like in some of these cases, the superintendent is appointed to do certain things. And so just moving forward and getting that done and getting those clarities. So that's my next steps. I'm going to get you the updated contract by the 10th, reviewing all of the language, or I'll get it to you before the 10th. I'll probably email it so the committees could look it over. And if you have any feedback, send it out. And then we could be able to vote on the 10th so that we could have it executed by the 15th. It would be great.
Yep, that was the other thing. It should be the Amherst, Pelham, and the regional
And
committees.
region, yes,
Yep,
we'll fix
perfect.
that.
Okay,
Hey,
thank you very much. Oh, you're back, Anna. Okay.
I was always here. I just was on mute, and
Oh, we
I didn't
couldn't hear
notice.
you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Sorry about that.
I had a quick question about why the longevity amount is such a strange number. And then the other one is in the severance section of termination, it says that if we decide not to renew her contract or to terminate her contract for any reason other than good cause, she gets a severance pay of 60 days. But she should not get a severance pay of any kind if we just decide not to renew her contract.
Okay.
I mean, if we decide not to renew her contract, the contract terminates and she leaves, and that's fine. But if we terminate her early for whatever reason other than good cause, then we do owe her some money.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll work on
Yeah.
that. The longevity. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna say why it's an odd number, Anna. It's actually so yes, there's a lot of things that we learn. So in terms of individuals who are in the district, the longevity ranges differently for different years. And so I think right now that's kind of what the standard is. And a lot of them are, this is the issue. Central office employees are based off of APAA contracts, which they shouldn't be. They're committee action and they shouldn't be. So I think that falls in line with the APAA or something like that. So that's standard for the 5 years for some individuals and as it goes up. So some individuals have 693, some individuals have $3,160 something dollars. Like it's really ranges based on years. And I think for some individuals it's based off of an administrator contract, and they shouldn't be based off of that. So those are things that we have to look at because they don't sit within the same role and benefit the same way that the assistant principals and other administrators benefit in the district. They don't work within the same scope for a lot of them.
Okay,
All
thanks.
right. Thank you
Thank you.
all very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Chairs of Amherst and Pelham. I will move to adjourn the Pelham School Committee.
Aren't we doing the superintendent's evaluation tool?
Oh my God, we totally are. I forgot. I withdraw.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. I take it all back. Yep. Sorry. I'm so sorry. My wrong thing was highlighted. Okay. Next up is vote to approve the superintendent's evaluation tool. All right. I think Anna, you're chair of that subcommittee.
Yes. So, a couple of things. I think if anybody has additional feedback about the language in the form, please do let me know. If we can also discuss it now, if you have things that you want to talk about that I should improve. The other one is this is not the format that is going to show up on the when it's finalized. I talked to the consultants today, and they are super helpful, really nice. They are going to make sure that the form is actually readable and not just this really long, bizarre, very narrow column-y kind of thing that looks impossible to interpret. And so, sorry, I have to go get my um, so the format is going to be really easy. The return data is also going to be easier. They're going to collate all of the scoring and send us a summary by committee of all of the Likert scale scores. And then they will try to combine all of the comments in a way that's helpful, but I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to send it in a way that's more helpful. But if you find it helpful, you'll be able to use it. This is for the committee chairs. You'll be able to use it. And if you don't find it helpful, all of the raw comments also available to you, sort of as kind of collected by question number. So
Okay.
I think the data analysis portion is going to be super helpful. And I think the formatting is going to be much, much better once it gets done. But they aren't going to change the text. So if you have comments about the text, we can talk about that now.
Thank you, Anna. Dr. Z.
I just wanted to chime in and say that I know in the last meeting, there was a request for me to try and get everything at least by the Friday of the 6th. I just want the committee to know myself and my team, we're working together to kind of get everything. We've started with the Google folder. I need everyone to also understand that this week is a very long and late week for me, the entire week. So I am going to try, and we are all going to try, but even Friday evening is graduation. So I have 2 nights of negotiations up until 6 p.m. Plus, I think my days start around 8 in the morning, and I'll be there till 6, and then I'll be trying to work to get these done. My goal is to try and get it to you by Friday. That is my intent, to at least have you to go into the folder. The second thing is that I think that because I am not a part of anyone's brain, and so for me, some individuals, as you're reviewing, when you're going to the folder, you'll see some like an overview document that kind of gives and this is just me, a self-reflection, but also ties and kind of speaks to some of the artifacts. That's something that I'm also working at so that my voice can be echoed as you move forward. I think waiting until the 10th to have some of the questions answered, like And also, I would like to ask if you have questions as you're going through before the 10th to save us from having to be there till midnight, please feel free to probably, if through the chairs, if you can receive questions that maybe committee members have that I can probably answer ahead of time, or choose Anna, I don't know. I don't mind doing that as well and kind of doing an FAQ, because that would help us to kind of move things to that on the 10th.
Thank you, Dr. Z. Deb?
Yeah, I have a question about the goals that are the superintendent goals, not any of the other verbiage in here. Goals 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm confused about why we're using those instead of the ones we originally voted in November, no, September. I know that some of the ones, it looks like what's in the packet were modified based on the mid-year review, but I don't remember voting those. Did we vote those? We voted them.
We did vote them.
Okay.
April 29th, I believe the date is on the top. I always put the date right on top.
We did not vote them on the 29th. We voted them on the 13th. They were originally presented on the 29th, but we didn't get to it, and then they were finalized and voted on the 13th.
So I guess I didn't think far enough in advance about that, because it seems odd to me to be evaluating based on goals that were voted 3 weeks ago.
So yes, I agree. And we should have done the mid-year review much earlier, but we didn't get it done, and so we did it when we could. And it is an opportunity to tweak the goals that we're using, and so that's what we did.
But may I follow up, please? The artifacts will be based on the year's worth. So it's the alignment of, it's the inconsistency of the timing of the goals with the artifacts versus the original ones that I think is poor practice on our part.
So I would not recommend doing this next year. We should absolutely do it better. I think the artifacts, I don't think the artifacts are going to be vastly different, because I think most of the stuff that we changed was changing language from doing it this year to, or completing it this year, to starting it this year and finishing it next year. And so is there anything in specific that you think is going to be an artifact that we would have included if we'd gone with the first ones, and we wouldn't request if be based on the second ones?
It's hard for me to think of it that way. All I can really say is that this is what I said last time. This is one of the most fundamental pieces of our job, and to do it ass backwards doesn't feel so great.
Thanks, Deb. Sarah?
Yeah, I would just encourage the superintendent to put this, the reflection on the duties and time, the pie chart, that should be an artifact, because that's highly relevant. It was attached to this agenda and a previous agenda, but maybe I don't need to mention that, but I think it's an important piece of information.
Dr. Z, did you have a follow-up, or was it from before?
I know I wanted to and to add to what Anna said to Deb, that in the mid-year, Deb, when I presented it, I did say what was completed, what was in progress, what had started. And I did also in that mid-year receive feedback from individuals. For example, you stated that There was no reflection of the portrait of a graduate work and, things that were all there. And so what ended up happening when I met with the subcommittee, and mostly with Anna, it was to discuss the fact on how now that I had the opportunity to edit and revise and submit new updated goals, how can it reflect the work that had started but may not completely be finished because it wouldn't be. And so that's what you see now in the language. So I don't see a drastic difference in terms of the artifacts that may be presented. And so we can always attach that in terms of what I had presented to the mid-year check-in if you want to see it someplace like in a section, but that it does reflect what you have now just reflects what Anna said, which is that things have started showing where they are. It's the foundational year and moving it forward. It's my hope that you see it that way.
Thank you, Dr. Z. William? Oh, you're muted.
I would like to make a motion to approve this tool and these set of questions to be used for the superintendent evaluation for Pelham.
Second. Oh,
Margaret, you're on mute.
I need to do the roll call vote.
Yes, please.
Sarah Bass,
Yes.
William,
Yes.
Margaret, yes.
Thank you. I will move the same for the region.
Second, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate that you do that. Any further discussion, Sarah?
Yeah, I just want to point out to folks in case they either haven't looked at one of the attached documents, the draft, what was it called? Superintendent. The first document, MASC Superintendent Evaluation Rubric. And if you did open it, it's daunting because it's 35 pages. It's only here so that we can consult what is presented starting on page 16 of the document. Okay, so you don't have to read everything that goes first. Okay.
I can resend one that is just the right pages. I'm sorry. Did I send the wrong?
You sent the whole thing. You sent the whole.
Sorry,
doc, so.
I'll redo that. I was looking for it quickly and I messed up, but I'll send the one that just has the rubric.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to feel they have to slog through that.
All right, thank you.
like-
Deb?
Tim, actually.
Oh, sorry, Tim.
That's okay. There's no way that you would have known. I should have asked earlier. It's not clear to me that I should be filling out this evaluation because I was elected just a few seconds ago.
You should be. You are on the committee now. You get to fill it out. That's how it works.
Okay. Well, in Union 28, where I'm also on the Joint Supervisory Committee, I was not eligible to fill out the superintendent evaluation in that circumstance. So, in one, situation, I'm eligible, and another, I'm not.
So you are eligible. How you choose to fill it out, or if you choose to fill it out, is up to you. The past practice has been if you are on the committee, when it is time to evaluate the superintendent, you get to evaluate the superintendent.
Thank you.
Any further discussion at the region? All right, roll call vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Yes.
Deb?
Abstain.
Tim?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
Irv?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
And Sarah Beth, yes. So we are 8 yeses, 0 no's, 1 abstention, and 0 absent. Thank you.
And I will move the same for Amherst.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. Any further discussion? Margaret? Oh, okay. Then Jennifer's a yes. Bridget?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Irv?
Yes.
And Deb?
Abstain.
4 yes, 0 no, 1 abstention. Thank you.
Margaret.
I just wanted to say in response to Tim's question, when I went on to the region, I did not complete the evaluation because I felt that 2 or 3 weeks was not sufficient for me to do so.
I'm a very quick study.
Yeah, good. You can go through all the minutes from the last year.
I don't need them. I make snap judgments. I never read the book. I just look at the cover, give it 1 star on Amazon.
Oh no. Okay.
Oh,
So now
Yeah.
I will move to adjourn the Pelham School Committee.
Second. Roll call vote. Sarah Bess,
Yes.
William,
Yes.
Margaret, yes.
Okay, and I move to adjourn the Amherst School Committee.
second.
Seconded by Sarah. Sarah?
Aye.
Jennifer's an aye. Bridget?
Yes.
Deb. Yes.
And Irv?
Yes.
Thank you. Amherst is adjourned.
I call to order Union 26. As I see a quorum here, I guess I have to do attendance. Sarah Bess,
Present.
Margaret,
Present.
myself, I'm present. Bridget,
Present.
Jennifer,
Present.
and Deb.
Present.
Union 26 is in session at 8:12.
All right. I will now move to the region that the Regional School Committee will now consider entering executive session pursuant to GLC 30A Section 21A, Purpose 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Dr. E. Ziomar Herman, Superintendent, with no intent to return to open session.
Second, Jennifer.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call. Sarah?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
Irv?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
And Sarah Beth, yes. All right, the region is in executive session. There should be another link that went to everybody.
So I call Union 26 will now consider entering executive session pursuant to GLC 30A Section 21A, Purpose 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Dr. Z, with no intent to return to open session.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. Any discussion? Jennifer,
Yes.
Sarah Bess,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
I know you're here. Deb,
I think they left the meeting too soon.
Oh, okay. Well, and myself. So our Unit 26 is now in executive session.
Thank you.